Money Mentor.
David Braithwaite.
David is here with us, and this week, lending money to family or friends. Sometimes we all need a quick cash injection, don't we? I'm sure it's something we've all done. I definitely have. Ask someone we know to lend us some money, to borrow some. David, this has got drama written all over it, hasn't it? But sometimes it can be the only option.
It is, yeah, and for lots of people, it also depends on the amount that you're borrowing, whether you're borrowing a fiver off somebody or £5,000 or a lot more. But yeah, it can be a really emotive subject with money, and money does make up an awful lot about how we feel in life, how how mentally stable we might be or unstable in certain circumstances. And it's also can make people feel very vulnerable. You know, when you haven't got money, the decisions that we make are different often than when we have got money. And it's that there's the whole transference of power as well. People that have got a lot of money have got different things to be. When you haven't got money, it's such a hard life to be living, isn't it? That's the problem.
And they always talk about certain subjects that are difficult to talk about, and money's definitely up there, isn't it?
Yeah, it's the one. It's the biggest topic. And there's a very good friend of mine going through something at the moment who's having to go to a friend to borrow some money to help out with something at the moment. And it's like, well, what other choice does she have? It's really difficult with what you're talking about with some of these topics, and it's so emotive, and it's about relationships, about the people that you're dealing with. Do you trust the people? How happy do you feel to actually approach people to borrow money? Is one thing, but then how do the people feel when they've been approached about lending you the money?
Okay, Daytime's relationship expert Teresha Young picking up on some of those points.
Money and relationships, always a delicate mix. When a loved one asks to borrow money, it's not just financial, it's emotional too. On one hand, it's a way to support somebody you care about, particularly through a tough time. But if repayment becomes an issue, it can lead to tension, resentment, and even change the relationship. Suddenly, there's a power shift. You might feel frustrated, they might feel embarrassed. And let's be honest, no one wants unpaid debt lingering at the next family gathering. So, before lending, ask yourself, is this a loan or a gift? If it's a loan, set clear terms. If it's a gift, give it without expecting it back. Can I afford to lose this money? If not, think twice. And also, how will I feel if they don't repay me? If it'll damage the relationship, is it worth it? At the end of the day, protecting your peace matters as much as helping out. Be clear, set boundaries, and make sure generosity doesn't turn into stress.
Daytime's relationship expert Teresha Young, David Braithwaite, the money mentor, listening in. Teresha saying clear boundaries, David. Let's pick it up from there.
Yeah, so there's a few pitfalls that she mentioned there. It's a strained relationship, we said earlier on, money's really emotional. And if the borrower actually struggles to repay, how is that going to cause maybe resentment from the person that wants the money back? It can damage a long-term relationship or a friendship or some family dynamic as well. It's the terms as well. Often the person lending the money will be, I just want to lend you the money and help you out. And then if they don't start getting maybe some of the money back, it's like, well, actually, did I agree the terms at which I was going to get paid? And actually, the person lending the money might think, well, I can get that money back really quickly. And actually, a year later, maybe they haven't got it, and then they feel awkward asking for it. And it's not like a bank loan. There's no legal requirement per se with a lot of these arrangements. It's a family arrangement, which is by its very nature makes it difficult.
Well, let's take a look at those two sides then, and the advice you can give to maybe the person lending the money and the person borrowing the money. So let's start with the person borrowing the money, because they are in a situation where clearly, for whatever reason, they need to grab hold of some maybe quick cash or some immediate cash to get them out of a problem. Maybe they don't want to go to a bank. Maybe they can't go to a bank. Maybe they don't have the financial ability to because they're not in a good financial state anyway. So they've asked their family member, can you help me?
Yeah, so my first thing is I would say don't borrow it unless it's absolutely necessary, because relationships are often more important than money sometimes, but I know that that's a very difficult point for a lot of people. So if the borrower, be clear about the repayment. Say to them, look, I'm coming to you for the money. Here is how I'm going to actually pay it back to you. Communicate really openly about how and when you're actually going to repay. and respect the agreement. Treat it with the same seriousness as you would a loan from the bank, but it's obviously you're borrowing it from a person. So keeping it business-like is really, really important in this. You've almost got to park the friendship or the family relationship and say, right, I'm treating this as a business arrangement. This is how I'm going to do it. This is serious.
That's almost impossible, though, isn't it? Because of what you just said there at the beginning, which is it may start off like that, but then later down the track, if you haven't received, your money back, especially if you are the family friend, the member of the family who is the, in quote, lender.
Yeah, but that's why you've even more so got to respect that agreement, because you don't want to ruin that friendship. So if you have gone to them to borrow money, the least you could do is actually stick to the arrangement, because then you're not going to let the relationship go sour. But also, you've got to acknowledge the emotional cost as well. We heard from the relationship expert there. If things go south, what's the potential fallout for you as the person borrowing? But also, could you maybe as a borrower offer collateral in some respect? Say, well, look, I'll borrow this money from you, but you can have this in exchange for that money.
Almost like a barter.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, so you could actually offer some collateral there, and also maybe considering not borrowing as much money as you need and getting maybe a part loan from a bank or something, and we'll talk about where you can get the money from in a minute, but actually maybe not borrowing the full amount. Just only borrow what it is that you absolutely need to do, but you just got to be so clear about when and what you're going to pay back and how, just to make sure that relationship doesn't change.
Because I guess that is one of the big factors, isn't it? How will I pay the money back?
Yeah, and you need to just get that agreed. So for the person lending the money, I think there's a bigger responsibility from them, strangely, because you want to make sure, because your first thing is, I want to help. And you do, it's a friend, it's a family member, it's a loved one, but you need to also treat it like that business transaction. Even if it is a close friend or relative, you've got to set out some clear terms. So what's the loan amount? How are you going to pay it back? What interest may be you charging as well? Are you expecting any sort of bit of an uplift for the fact that you've done this? And what are the consequences of non-payment? The other thing is only lend them what you can afford to lose as well. So assume that you might not get the money back. If losing that money would cause a financial strain to you, then you shouldn't borrow. You shouldn't be lending them the money in the first place, because what they're doing is knocking that problem onto somebody else to then deal with it as well.
Teresha made that point, our relationship expert, about, just think about how you are going to feel about the money too. So you almost need to write it off in your own head, even though you do want the money back.
Yeah, but if you are going to do that, then consider making an actual gift. If you genuinely want to help out, but don't want the awkwardness of the actual debt, if you gift the money, then you're not expecting anything back at all. And the interest rate charge is often a difficult one as well. So if you're lending them the money and you'll say lend them, £500, how much are you expecting back? Is it 500? What's the cost to you of lending them that money? If you're getting 4 or 5% maybe in the bank, you're losing on interest by lending it to that person. So actually, are you expecting some rate of return back for your money over and above the original amount invested? And what are the terms you lend the money to? When do you want the money back by? Often with friends and family, you say, oh, here's the money, just pay me back when you can. Well, when is the point that you can?
When you can.
So that's the situation, isn't it? It's just thinking about also that impact on not just you. And we've come across a few people where they've lent friends and family money, but that person's done it to keep that transaction private. Then the money hasn't been paid back. And the impact then to the family and the friends that are there going, well, hang on a minute, why did you lend them that money? What did you do that for without asking me? So you have the impact of the wider family from the person that's actually lending the money. And the last thing I would say is have an exit plan. What if that person can't afford to repay it? What's your plan? Do the people around you know that you've lent this money in the first place? Are you going to be happy converting it into a gift? Who knows?
Tom, Dick or Harry, do you really know them very well? And if you don't know them very well, be careful about considering them to be your friends, because they might be a loan shark. That's the warning I would just give. We'll come back with David in just a second here on BBC Radio Kent to look at that and alternatives to get that money.